And I'm going to start. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about the general operating grant for the Salt Lake City Arts Council. This is a grant that is available to nonprofit organizations located in Salt Lake City. So I did notice that there were a few people who had registered who maybe didn't fit that criteria. You're able, if you're not a nonprofit organization or if you're located outside of Salt Lake City, you are able to apply for a project support grant. And those orientations are starting tomorrow evening. So if that fits you, feel free to hop off and sign up for one of those orientations. Can everybody hear me okay? I got a new computer and I just want to make sure my sound is okay for everyone. Okay, thank you, Corey. And I will be sharing my screen. Let's see, general operating. And feel free to interrupt me as I'm chatting if you have any questions about the presentation. Just trying to get to the play slideshow.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
So when you say if you're not a nonprofit or outside of Salt Lake City, what does outside of Salt Lake City means?
So you have to be a nonprofit. Do you have a nonprofit organization that has an arts or culture focus?
I do, but we're not in Salt Lake City. We're in Draper.
Okay, so your organization would need to apply for the project support grant. We're not able to provide general operating funds, but we are, if you have a project that's happening in Salt Lake City boundaries, so the city council districts, if you have a project that's going to be happening within those districts, you can apply for a project support grant and receive funding for that specific project.
And that would open up tomorrow, you said, the orientation.
Yes, that orientation happens tomorrow at 5:30, and then there's another one on May 12th. And
so in order to qualify for this particular grant, we have to have a physical address in Salt Lake City.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so I'm not really able to check the chat screen as we are going. So please feel free to interrupt, or you can also hold your questions until the very end. I am going to drop some links into the meeting chat for you. If you, there to the guidelines, the grants portal, office hours, and my email address for you. So you can copy those down. So the general operating grant is available for this upcoming fiscal year, 23-24, and we'll be going over highlights of the guidelines, but please do refer to the PDF of the guidelines online and review those closely to make sure that you know the ins and outs of the grant. And of course, I'm available for any questions you have. So let me find my mouse and I will click to the next slide. I'm not sure I introduced myself. I'm Susan Campbell, Community Investment and Development Manager for the Salt Lake City Arts Council. And I oversee the grants process and assist our board of directors in the review process. So I do not actually score the grants, but I oversee putting together the guidelines, making sure everything's put together, and answer any questions you all have. And then once you complete the grants and they're all submitted, I review them for eligibility, making sure that everything aligns with the grant guidelines, and send them to the review committee, which is made up of a committee from the board of directors for the Salt Lake City Arts Council. So those are community members within Salt Lake City, and they come from all 7 city council districts. So, and you can reach me anytime at artsgrants@slcgov.com. So the general operating support grant, there is a limit up to $10,000, again, for arts or culture-based nonprofits. So you can request what you need up to that $10,000 mark. And then we do have the arts learning enhancement. Some of the organizations that have been receiving grants from us may recall a couple years ago, this was a completely separate grant. This grant is focused on, or this element is focused on arts learning opportunities for our youth, so ages 3 through 18. And when we had this separate grant, and you had to write a full grant for it, we're finding that most of the people writing that grant were also writing for general operating and project support. So instead of making everybody do twice as much work, we added one specific question related to this arts learning enhancement to the general operating grant. And you can request between $1,000 and $5,000 if you do programming focused on arts learning for youth. And then answer that one question. And based on that score, you can receive additional funds focused on the arts learning component of your programming. And I will keep going unless somebody interrupts me. So please let me know if you have questions. The applications opened yesterday at 9 a.m. and we had 2 orientations. Sorry, just making sure nobody is waiting. And we had 2 orientations, one yesterday and today, right now. And this orientation will be recorded and placed online on the grants website. So if you have questions and want to refer back to it, you can go there. The application does close at 5 p.m. on Friday, June 2nd. Please note it closes at 5 p.m. We are not able to accept late applications. And so please submit early just in case you have any problems with internet or any sort of issues. And feel free to reach out if you have issues logging back into your portal if you haven't been in there for a few months. I know passwords, there's so many of them. I can help you reset that if you have any problems with that. The final report is due 30 days after the completion of your programming or your year, or before September 30th of 2024. So please do refer to the guidelines and read them through all the way. And you must submit that final report in order to be in good standing with the Arts Council. Moving forward, a program overview. So the General Support Grant assists arts and culture mission-driven organizations with general operating expenses and the continuation or expansion of their arts and culture-focused programming in Salt Lake City. So the funds that we provide are to be used on the programming within Salt Lake City. We do know that some of your organizations may have programming that reach into other parts of the valley, but the funding comes from the Salt Lake City. As an entity, they provide this funding for our organizations. So all the funding that you receive from this grant need to be used for your programming focused within Salt Lake City. Organizations funded in general support must demonstrate artistic and cultural vibrancy, value, foster cultural equity, and cultivate a positive social impact on the community. Oh, did you want to take a photo of that?
I got it.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Program structure. We have approximately $215,000 to award to nonprofit organizations in this category. And this support, the grant dates are from September 1st of 2023 through August 31st of 2024. So you have a whole year starting this fall to spend these funds. And again, you can apply for up to $10,000 for general operating support, and then an additional $1,000 to $5,000 for your arts learning components. For organizations that have been a grantee for 3 or more years from the Arts Council, we do provide the grant payment in one lump sum upfront. So that will be in late September, early October at the latest, to those organizations. For newer organizations that do not have 3 years of longevity with the Arts Council, we do break the payments into 50% payments. So you'll receive half of your grant funds at the beginning of the fiscal year and the other half after the final report is submitted. Do we have any questions at this time? Okay, I'll keep moving forward. Eligibility. So I've covered this, but I'll go over it one more time. A nonprofit organization, so you do need that 501c3 status. And please make sure that your address in, what is it called? The grant, oh shoot, I lost, GuideStar. Make sure that your address in GuideStar matches your Salt Lake City address, because we will be verifying that you are located in Salt Lake City using GuideStar. So you need to be based in Salt Lake City on the date of submission. So if your organization is moving later this year, that wouldn't work. It needs to be on the date of submission. You need to have administrative staff. This can be volunteer staff or paid staff, but staff members. And then this is a matching grant, so you are required to have an exact, at least one-to-one match for the grant fund. So if you're requesting $10,000, you need to show us that you have $10,000 of donations coming in, or that could be ticket revenue, or classroom fees that you're receiving from students. But you need to have a cash match. In kind does show commitment to your organization and does strengthen your application, but that doesn't count towards the one-to-one match. And then, as I mentioned, you need to apply the funds from this grant towards the activities and programming within Salt Lake City only. So if you do half of your programming, say in Salt Lake City, and half in West Valley City, you can only use approximately 50% towards administrative costs. You would break it out evenly between how much programming you have in each location. Apply any award to services between September 1st of this year through August 31st of next, and then be in good standing with the Salt Lake City Arts Council. And if you have a question about whether you're in good standing, please just shoot me an email. Most of the time it's just, that you have regularly submitted your final reports with grants that you've received in the past.
Question, Susan?
Yeah.
Just on that the previous slide,
Yes.
you mentioned that one of the qualifications is at least 3 years of a 501c3. Is that 3 years from the date you, as a 501c3, filed or finished filing, or is that 3 years of just history?
3 years of programming within Salt Lake City. So okay. You would need to have a programming history as a 501c3 for those 3 years. Gotcha. If you don't have that quite yet, you are still eligible to apply in the project support category. Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, Mara, the recording will be online by the end of the day today, I believe. Thank you. Funding limitations. Programs that are already completed before or after the grant dates are not eligible. If any of your programming or travel that takes place outside of Salt Lake City is also not eligible. We're not eligible to fund for-profit businesses or LLCs. Expenses that are incurred for the purpose of debt reduction, capital improvement campaigns. And then if you have any programs that are restricted, you need to be a member of your organization in order to attend this event. The funds cannot be used for that restricted programming. And a new criteria this year is organization and projects that receive 50% or more of their budget from the Salt Lake City Corporation. So that's the Salt Lake City government. I use the ridiculous example of the Salt Lake City Arts Council. So we are part of the city government and we are also a nonprofit. And this limitation would actually prevent us from applying for this grant because we receive 50% or more of our budget from Salt Lake City Corporation. Not that an organization would apply for their own grant. That seems ridiculous, but that's the example I've been giving for how that works. And that does not count for in-kind because some organizations are receiving a discount on their permits to hold festivals and such. That is not part of this. It's when you receive 50% of actual cash from the city for your program or your organization. Any questions? Okay. So important dates, the grant is open through June 2nd. That's a Friday at 5 p.m. And then after we receive the grants, I will review them for eligibility just to make sure there aren't any errors in the application, such as a question that wasn't submitted or an error with the budget. And once that eligibility has been determined, the Arts Council Grants Review Committee will receive the grants for scoring. And we'll talk about scoring in just a moment. The board committee meets and makes recommendations that will be sent on to the full Arts Council board in the summer of, well, later this summer. And the board will approve those grant recommendations. And you will receive notification in August or early September about the amounts of funding that you may receive. Payments will be distributed after we receive the grants terms and agreements signed by you all. And then payments will be distributed shortly after that. And just a reminder that there is a final report that's due 30 days after the completion of your programming or by September 30th. Again, please read through the grant program guidelines, and a reminder that all communications will come by email. So it'll either come from an @slcgov.com email address or the arts interface email that is part of the grants portal. So please make sure that those emails are whitelisted. So scoring, upon request from the grants committee, we have decreased the rubric scoring. So in past years, we've tried to base the scoring on 100 points. That typically makes it really simple for people to understand the scoring. If they receive 90 out of 100, they know that they did really well. The problem that the grants committee put forward was that having such a wide range of up to 20 points per question was challenging to figure out, is this a 15 or a 17 or is it, 14? So they wanted to simplify it and have it be either a question was worth 5 points or 10 points. And so that did decrease the total points for the grant. It didn't really impact how you approach the grant, but I just wanted to point that out for you. So you'll notice with the general support, the core criteria, it's worth a total of 40 points. The artistic and cultural vibrancy question, which replaced artistic and cultural excellence, that question is worth 10 points. So it's worth twice as many points as programming goals. And just looking at the question in detail and trying to give really detailed responses to those questions will help you score better on those. So there are 5 main questions within the grant for the general support category, and the 1 additional question for arts learning. So this question will only be if your organization wants to apply for the arts learning enhancement. So youth programming focused on arts learning, ages 3 through 18. You'll answer 1 additional question, and based on that question will be how we distribute the arts and learning portion of the funding. And then the budget, it's a clarity of budget and fiscal responsibility. So, really clear cut. And are there any questions related to the scoring rubric? So I did want to make a couple notes on the budget. So we've tried to simplify the budget process because that tends to be one of the biggest complaints that we receive in terms of grant applications. So we are reusing the same budget if you applied for an operating support grant from the Utah Division of Arts and Museums. It is the same budget that they used this past year. So we welcome you to just take that document and use the same numbers and move it over and upload it for our grant application. Hopefully that it simplifies the process. Their budget was it was a lot simpler than it has been in past years. So we're hoping that alleviates some of the time consumingness of writing a grant. And as a reminder, we do ask that the budget's balanced. So this means income equals expenses. And then we want to encourage you to provide explanation in the budget notes section. So if you list, $50,000 for administrative costs, letting us know how many people that includes. Is that 3 part-time people, 1 full-time person? Just give us a little bit more detail, and that'll help the review committee helping determine the fiscal responsibility and clarity of the budget on those questions. So any questions on the budget? Okay, just a couple more slides, and then if you have any questions, I can answer them, and if not, we might get off a little bit early. So FAQs and office hours. I'm trying to keep the FAQs updated with questions as I receive them. So please check those out. Those are on our grants website in one of the pull down menus that you can select. So please check there if you do have a question. If you don't find an answer, feel free to send me an email at theartsgrants@slcgov.com. And then we do also, we're continuing the option for office hours. So you can schedule a 25-minute appointment with me between May 4th and May 24th to chat about any questions you might have about the grant. I'm happy to assist you with a particular question if you want to bounce ideas of what we're looking for versus what your programming is. So please feel free to set up an appointment with me anytime. And I believe that is one of the links I provided was the Calendly. Yes, the Calendly link at the beginning of the meeting. So, and that's also available in the guidelines and on our website. So, and, please reach out to me with any questions you have. I'm happy to to answer anything that might come up as you are writing the grant. So let me stop sharing so I can see you all. Does anybody have any questions or anything at all?
I have a quick question just for clarification.
Yes.
So like say when we're applying for ZAP, you have to report before you apply again. I know that we have like a due date for our report for last year. It's okay that we're waiting until the report due date.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because our cycle is where you're applying significantly before. So yes, that is fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one question as well. Under the eligibility portion, the administrative staff, we are contracted staff. Does that qualify as the same thing?
Yes, that is fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I think you two are the only one who made it to the end of the presentation. So
Well, thank you. This has been helpful.
you're welcome. And please do reach out with any further questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them, even if it seems like it's not a fully formed question or something that I said or you've read, but you just can't find it again. Just shoot me an email. I'd rather get you on the right path than have something.
And sorry, I just thought of one more question with the matching grant of the 1-to-1.
Yes.
Can that be combined grants, or does that have to be like if you're going for the 10,000, do you have to have a grant that's been awarded for 10,000, or it can be two different grants of varying amounts? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It can be any form of matching. So it could be
Okay.
tuition from students and a little bit of grant and a little bit of donation.
Okay, so it can be combined. Okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.